All right. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. It's one of those things where I'm always on the scout and lookout for new people to interview. Whether whether regardless of the podcast that I'm recording for and whatnot. So it's awesome to come across somebody who also kind of does a very similar thing. Obviously, it's not your primary job, but it's something that you've kind of taken on, right? But
Mhm.
do you really quickly, in your own words, want to introduce yourself? Who are you, and what do you do?
Sure. I am Sarah Parker. I'm the content marketing manager for Cision, and I consider myself first and foremost just a writer.
Okay, okay, and the reason I say somebody I came across you primarily I'd seen your name floating around obviously, but via LinkedIn. I think
Mhm.
that's kind of where you really came onto my radar doing this interviewing. Um, is that something you volunteered for?
Yeah, it was actually an idea that I had
Okay.
because way back in the Union Metrics days, quick
Hmm.
backstory for those who don't know, Union Metrics was a social media analytics startup that Trendkite acquired, and then Cision acquired Trendkite, and so
Hmm.
on and so forth in the matryoshka dolls of corporate acquisitions. But we had something similar back then that I took over as a series that was also called Take Five, but we would conduct interviews. Those weren't recorded and shared, but then I would turn those into more in-depth blog posts.
Hmm.
So I thought now that we have, LinkedIn Live, which I think is executed a little bit better than Facebook Live because I also experimented with that in the past. I thought it was a good
Uh-huh.
place to like bring that back, and it was like a really fitting way to just tap into all of the really smart communicators and journalists that we have and be able to share what they have to say with our audience.
Okay, and I think it's very interesting in to me because it sounds like you're somebody who, besides just being a writer, I mean, which is a content producer, right? For people, you have an audience in mind. Have you always felt like a person who wanted to be kind of, to an extent, a performer? Is that something that does resonates? Okay.
Yeah, that's definitely a fair characterization. I did theater in high school, and
Oh, okay.
I was a dancer before that, so I always have been learned to be comfortable on the stage, and that helped with public speaking skills, and that
Hmm.
was always something that I enjoyed doing, those kinds of projects in school and all of that. So
Okay.
I always wanted to take that on as part of my career.
Okay. No, and that makes sense. I mean, you figured out a way to do it, right? Is it a creative side of you that wants to do this sort of thing? Do you feel like you put on a persona, or you are a different person in front of the mic?
Yeah, I think it's just tapping into different aspects of your
Hmm.
personality. You dial
Okay.
up certain things and you dial
Sure.
down maybe other things.
That's a very actor response.
Well, I think it's really true because you're
Mm,
not. I can see how some people might be more comfortable inhabiting a full like separate character to be able to
hmm.
do that. Could make you more comfortable to do that kind of thing, but
Sure.
because I am already so comfortable with it, I feel like that's just aspects of my personality that I'm pulling out and putting on
Hmm.
display
Okay.
um,
Okay.
for that duration of time.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'm sure there's a tone and a voice that comes out as well, and like you're dialing things up as you said, and I'd never quite thought of it that way, and you're absolutely right. Because I'm not me, right?
Yeah.
I am me, but I do my tone changes and then my
Hmm.
mannerisms and how I speak and all that stuff. So that checks out, I guess. I mean, it resonates with me, I guess, in a sense, right? Um, so let's a little bit of backstory, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
Um,
no worries.
you you're a writer, you said.
Hmm.
Um, have you always wanted to be a writer? I mean, is that something that you grew up doing? And where did you grow up?
Yeah, actually, I'm from Houston, Texas,
Okay.
and I've lived in Austin for the past, God, like 16 years now. Not
Okay.
sure. Not sure how
Did you
that.
go to college there?
Yes, I came for school to UT, and of course, everyone who moves here and goes to UT wants to stay. And I was the only one of my college friends that was like, "Guys, we're all gonna have to move to get jobs," and I'm the only one that's still here.
Really? Everyone left.
Yeah, I stayed
Okay.
for grad school, and then I started working in the tech industry, so that
Okay. Okay.
worked out. Like I've never been one of those people who had their career path like mapped out really solid. Like I'm going to do this by this age, and I'm going to do that by this age, because
Mm,
I saw too many people who did that getting really disappointed in themselves if they didn't hit something, or if they did and then they found out that it's not what they really wanted.
right,
So
right.
I was like, you know what? I'm not delusional enough to pursue acting as a career. And I was a freelance
Okay,
writer for a while
sure.
after I finished grad school. Working
Okay.
on my master's thesis was incredibly fun because I did disaster humor is what I focused on. So when
So
people,
what, yeah, what was your degree in?
yeah, it was in communications.
So disaster humor. Okay.
Yes. So I thought I could not even tell you how I put this together at the
Sure,
time, but
sure.
sort of, when you're in academia and you're like, this seems like a normal thing to like dissect, and the real
Hmm.
world, everyone's like, I don't know what that means.
It's a very
So,
academic way of thinking. Yeah.
yeah. So it's basically like if there's a disaster and then people make jokes around it. So sort of looking at communication as and humor as a coping mechanism and a way of communicating your feelings around certain events that we really have trouble processing and dealing with. And some people do that
Okay.
with humor and sort of as a negotiation. So I in what's appropriate to talk about. I went to a stand-up and
Mhm.
improv theater that's
I was
in
gonna,
here in
yeah, I
Austin.
was gonna ask. I'm like, well, you're going down a very familiar path for me. So
Yeah, so
let's continue with this.
yeah, I had done some sketch comedy in the past there,
Okay.
so I
Okay.
knew the owner, and I was like, "Hey, are you cool with me just like hanging out in the theater for weeks at a time and doing field notes and
Hmm.
basically waiting for that kind of humor to happen and then see what the reactions were?" And then I wrote a whole thesis about it. So my legacy is that I got to academically define the too soon rule when someone makes a joke about, like, I think Michael Jackson died during that
Hmm.
time.
Hmm.
So definitely someone mentioned that in their like improv set, and someone in the audience was like, too soon. So it's like, or if someone on stage makes a joke and they can be like, oh, is that too soon, as like a negotiation with the audience if the audience doesn't react well. So
That's all very. This took a left turn in such a good way.
yeah,
It's in such a good way. I'm so interested in all this. So when you
yeah,
say communication, you're not talking about like journalism. You're talking about human communications.
yeah. I did start in journalism,
Okay.
and
Okay.
um, the I mean, I love UT and I love the comm school dearly, but I'm going to say I feel like they were a little bit behind the curve because I
Okay.
was graduated in 2007 and they were like just introducing like a digital journalism track. And I was like, guys, they're a little behind. Like having us
Mm,
subscribe to newspapers and like do all of that was like really old school.
mm-hmm.
And I was like, I can see there's a place for that in this, but that shouldn't be the whole focus because the entire industry has moved on from that, and you could
Right.
just see like there were layoffs and restructuring and all of that. And as a student I
Mm,
was like, I'm not
mm-hmm.
sure that's in an industry that I want to like throw my hat in there. Not that freelance writing after that was like a lot more stable and secure, but
I mean, it's not. It still isn't.
no.
It's a rough situation. I have a friend who lives in New York City right now, and she's
Mhm.
probably going to be moving back home. But she's been freelance writing forever, and just it's impossible to do in New York City
It's
for one.
tough. It
Yeah,
is so tough. Like
yeah,
I worked all the time because you're
yeah.
constantly afraid that you won't get another contract. And so
It's a
that's when
never-ending
I was
hustle.
like,
Hmm.
yeah, I'm gonna find me a corporate job.
I mean, it's stable, right? It's stable. So you find a way to kind of meld your hobbies.
Hmm.
This for one for
Yeah.
me, and then two, like I do, ERG work, right? So I do a lot of
Hmm.
different, diversity, equity, inclusion stuff. So kind of melding that part of me into the corporate
Yes.
realm, and you're doing a lot of the same. It seems like,
Yeah. I feel like
right?
those are the things that you have to draw on in order
Right.
to be better at whatever it is that you're doing for your day job.
Yeah, and honestly, sanity first, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Right. So you,
Especially now.
yeah, absolutely. You want to be able to kind of bring in what you love to do, into your daily in and out, and make it something that you love to do, right? In
Yes.
general, like make the whole thing in life kind of worth living on a daily basis. And not that, we're not in the miserable situation or a miserable company, not that
Yeah.
shouldn't, taint how you think of it, but it definitely making things tolerable in a positive way.
Well, yeah, because
So
any corporate job isn't like constant creativity and
no. There is that, that your arduous kind of day in and day out of just any life.
yeah, there's
Regardless of the company you work at or the situation. Even I know plenty of people in the nonprofit sector
mhm.
that are going in and day out, and they have their own struggles and having to get life done, and that's just life
Yeah,
and being an adult,
there's
which
a
kind of
bureaucratic element.
to me is a perfect segue back
Yeah.
to comedy and trauma.
Yes.
So, and a coping mechanism.
Mhm.
So I think that's very interesting in comedy as a coping mechanism in a lot of different ways on a grand scale socially,
Mhm. Yes.
as a society, and also on an individual level. What There had to have been something that kind of caught your attention when it came to this specific topic. What was that for you?
That it's my own personal coping mechanism.
There you go. And you didn't I set it up and you knocked it down. There you
Yep.
go. Right? That's what's so funny. And no, it absolutely is. So there's jokes, and I'm sure you listen to podcasts, and I listen to a ton of comedians, and I love comedy, and I love stand up, and I
Mhm.
love performing, and I love all this stuff. But there is something to say about performers. They tend to be they a lot of what you don't see about them is that they're very much introverts.
Yes.
They are introverts, as I am, as myself, and I'm sure maybe you are as well.
Yes.
There's this side, yeah. It's the way you used to cope to be able to kind of trudge through all this stuff that happened, whether it's in your childhood or something not as intense, but stuff,
Right.
your anxieties about the world or
Because you can't
whatever it
control
is.
it.
Right. So it's an idea. I heard Whitney Cummings recently said, she's like, she's like, I was teased a lot. So I had to learn how to make fun of myself so I could control my own narrative. And I made fun of me before you could make fun of me. Now I
Yeah.
was in charge. Right. So it's all that whole thing. Were you very much in the kind of the same, doing the similar thing growing up? Was that why you did that? And if not, we don't have to talk about it, but
Oh
maybe,
no.
yeah.
I was a deeply weird child, as most of us are. But
Yes.
I had like red hair and
Yeah.
messed up teeth, and I
Okay.
was like really into chimpanzees. Jane
Nice.
Goodall, yeah, Jane Goodall was my hero. I got to meet her when I was 10,
You
so
did
I
what?
am still stoked about that.
That's yeah, that's definitely like something you share as an icebreaker, right?
Yes. So yeah, I did. I got made fun of a lot in elementary school, but I was
Hmm.
also a very secure child, and I have no idea why. I wish it was like a formula that I could present to others to be like, "Did your kid get made fun of? Here's what you need to do."
Like secure,
That was,
like in a confident way, you mean?
yes.
Okay.
And I think maybe it was because like I was an only child, but I had a best friend that lived next door, and then
Mm,
my parents had like their best friends had a daughter that I was best friends with, and then I was best friends with my cousin who was like 8 months younger than me. So I had all
right.
these like pseudo siblings that I was really good friends with.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I guess I was like, well, if the kids at school are jerks, like it doesn't really matter because I have all these other friends that
Right.
I know are my friends for life, and I am
Hmm.
still friends with all of them. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes absolute sense. There's kind of that false, not a false, but like a weird security that you do have, which is nice, right?
well, and then I used like humor and self-deprecating humor, especially like as I got older, and then in junior high when everyone is a freak and you're just like learning how to
Yeah.
navigate social situations at
Right.
all, like up through
Right.
high school. And then in high school, I was just like, guys, this is not the real world. Like after this, we're gonna graduate and then we're gonna go have a life. So anything that happens here doesn't really matter.
Did you have like a high self-awareness at a very young age?
Yes.
Okay. It sounds like it. It sounds like you had like this kind of like this ability to Like all of a sudden you had the big picture in mind the whole time. You had this
Yes,
perspective.
and I don't know where that came from, but I am grateful for it.
No, for sure. It's. I think it's something that kind of contributes to it. Like it's. I wouldn't say it's a loss of innocence at a very young age. I felt very self-aware, maybe at 5, right? Where I
Hmm.
was just like I just knew the world worked a certain way, and it almost. It was a little bit darker very early on because of it. It was very pragmatic. I'm like, don't trust
Yeah.
people, this or that, and it kind of carried. And then the teasing and stuff on top of it in school really kind of threw stuff on top of it. So like, yeah, deflecting through humor,
Hmm.
self-deprecating, all that stuff, controlling your narrative. It sounds like it was, that's what it was. Did you ever actually go out and do stand up yourself? Have you ever thought of that?
I've thought about it. I've never done stand up. I loved doing sketch. Like
Mm,
full improv was never my thing
okay.
because too many people feel the pressure to have to be funny the whole time, and like really good improv doesn't have
Um,
to constantly be like one upping the jokes. It's just
mhm.
building a good scene.
Yeah.
And I just liked I guess you could say I'm a little bit type A because I like sketch in that you have everything mapped out, you know the basic beats of the scenes you're going to do, but you still have room to improvise on top of that if
Right.
like a better joke occurs to you in the moment. So there's
Okay.
that improvisational element, but you're not just completely thrown to the wind.
How do you feel about having a lack of control in your life?
I have learned to deal with it,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Um,
Tell me your coping mechanisms because I need some advice.
Yes, yeah, no. Now, especially, like, I'm glad that this is. I
Hmm.
had a pretty chaotic, like, extended family growing up. Like, it was just me and my
Okay.
parents. So, like, we had
Sure.
a stable family unit, but the
Sure.
extended family was a lot. So,
Hmm.
I think that
Hmm.
is a big reason that I had to develop some copingisms around that pretty early in life. And so,
Okay.
I've always
Okay.
been able to deal with chaotic situations. I think that's why I also landed in like startup world for a while
Okay. Yeah.
because I'm like, sure, chaos, throw it at me. I will
It's
figure it out.
because it's what's yeah, it's you're in your element.
Yeah, unfortunately. I mean, as I get older, I'm kind of like, I don't know how
Yeah,
much
right.
more of this is enjoyable versus like, there's a
Mm-hmm.
level of it that is like
Mm-hmm.
fun and exciting and challenging. And then there's a
Sure.
level of it that you're just like, no, this means that nobody has their stuff together
Uh-huh.
and we need
Uh-huh.
to figure that out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, yeah, that's there is that. I mean, or you're just better than everyone else. You're better at like adapting. No, I mean, I think I saw something at the beginning of kind of like this whole pandemic, and I felt attacked by the meme, honestly, but it's because it resonated, and
Yeah.
it was something along the lines of like a woman going to her therapist and saying, I feel oddly um, calm during
Hmm.
all this chaos that's going on in the world. And she says, because your whole life has been chaos. And that's what you're used to. So you're
Yep.
finally in your element. Like everyone else is going nuts, but you're in your element. So like you feel great.
I feel
And
normal.
right. I
Like,
was like, welcome to the show, people. Like it's been going on.
one of my coworkers was
Mhm.
like, what do you think about all this? This is like when we were still
Mhm.
in the office before we
Sure.
had all gone home. And I was
Sure.
like,
Sure.
well, I always just kind of expected something crazy would happen in my lifetime. So I
Right.
guess
Like
this is it.
I've been preparing for this. My anxiety is finally like, it's not for nothing. I've been
Well, we haven't been doomsday prepping. So, well, I don't know. Maybe you have.
mentally. I mean, I've been
Okay. Yeah.
checking,
Yeah.
yeah, mentally because
Mentally and emotionally.
oh, I mean, like probably one of my strengths is spiraling for sure. Right.
Yeah.
I can't put that on my CV.
You
Do
can
not.
under special skills.
Is it? Is it though? Maybe in academia. Like if I went back to academia, decided to get a PhD, maybe they'd be like, wow, this guy really, can
Mhm.
take anything we throw at him.
Yeah. Oh God. But they
Yeah.
have their own entrenched issues in academia.
Oh no, I mean, yeah, that's a whole different thing, right? You were you not going to do a PhD? I mean, that's a very interesting topic. I almost want to read your thesis, honestly.
Yeah, well, you
Uh,
can. I'll send it to you if you're
oh
if
no,
you run
yeah.
out of pandemic reading. I can send you the link. It is online.
Oh please, please do. I mean, anything at UT, and also UT is it's a very beautiful campus.
It is. It's
Mhm.
hot as hell, but it's beautiful.
Yeah. I was thinking about going into their Latin American Studies program at UT. In Austin itself is a wonderful city. So
I love it.
it makes sense as to why you stayed.
Yeah. I mean,
What?
they also don't want you to like get a degree or PhD at the same school that you did undergrad and so the reason they let me into the master's program is I was like, I'm just going to get my master's and I'm done.
Ah, okay.
They want you to go somewhere else.
Well, yeah, you want to like separate it, right, and change
Mhm.
it up and
Yeah.
all that stuff. I mean, that makes absolute sense. That's something you want to do? Is that what you're getting at?
No. I was thinking
Oh.
like maybe in my like retirement if I had enough money or like managed to get
Mhm.
a grant or something to go back to school and get my PhD when I'm like in my 60s, maybe that's something I would do, but not now. That's not
No.
appealing to me.
Oh no, no, trust. Like, yeah, no, I get you. It's definitely interesting. So I mean, what's Austin like these days? It's you saw it probably before the boom, right?
Yeah, it is crazy how much it changed because I moved here in 2004.
Mm-hmm.
So like when I lived here in college, my rent was like $450.
What? That's it? That's insane.
Well, that was to split like the top floor of an old house that was falling down with a roommate, but
But
still.
still.
Yeah, and it was in like a nice neighborhood. I refused to live. There's by campus, there's a neighborhood called West Campus, which is where
Mm-hmm.
most of the students live, and it is
Mm-hmm.
like all the frat houses are there.
I know it. Yeah.
It is a lot. So I was explaining for anyone like listening that doesn't know what that
Hmm.
is.
Oh
But yeah,
yeah.
I
Yeah.
refused to live there. But my college boyfriend did, so I would like go for the parties, and I'd be like, "Cool, going to my quiet home now."
Yeah, you could leave, right? That's so interesting because I just saw this morning actually. I think a friend of mine posted an article saying that it's become the most unlivable city for a minimum wage worker.
Yeah, no, it's really bad because
No.
so many tech companies have come and opened offices here, and they
Hmm.
pay really well. But if anyone is I was so worried as soon as the pandemic happened because
Right.
there are so many people here that do scrape together a living doing service industry or music industry
Hmm.
stuff,
Hmm.
and they make almost all of their money for the year during South by, and that got
That
canceled,
got
which
canceled. Yeah.
was the right thing to do. But I was immediately like worried about all of those people because, aside from like Airbnb being out your place, like, and that's
Yeah.
also dependent on South by, like, you
Right.
can't afford to do that. So it is like rent
Hmm.
is crazy now. Like, the housing market is crazy.
Hmm.
And it's even higher right now. Like, one of my neighbor's kid just moved back from New York City, and him and his wife are buying a house, and they had to like put in a contract like sight unseen because that's how competitive the housing market is right
Wow. Really?
now. Yeah.
Okay. That I mean that yeah, it's booming there. I mean, there's
Mhm.
buildings going up. Last time I was there was maybe a few years ago, so I'm
The
sure
skyline is totally different. Like, you can
even
look up
since then.
pictures on the internet of like what it was in 2004 when I moved here, and there's like a few tall buildings, and now there's like all these huge condos and stuff, and
And they're
it,
nice condos. I mean, I've been in a couple of those in the view. I mean, like, I'm like, wow.
yeah, I just
My friend was dog sitting for a couple of
yeah.
people. Yeah.
I'm the kind of person who's like, I don't understand paying a lot of money to see a view of buildings. Like, if I'm paying a lot of money, I want to see a forest or something.
So you're not paying for the view of buildings. You're paying to look down on the on the plebes,
I guess
right?
that's true.
You're paying to be above, literally physically above everyone else.
I guess I've watched too many disaster movies for that. Like, I want to be on the ground
Okay.
floor. I got to get out.
Yeah. I mean, you go rewatch Cloverfield, because that's an intense movie if you want to not live in like a tall building.
No.
Also, for the listeners, if you don't know what South by is, South by
Oh
Southwest,
yeah.
that's the cool Austin way to say it.
Yeah, yeah, South by, that's just what we call it.
Right. So Austin city limits or South by for you?
Hmm.
Which one?
I'm not a music festival person.
Oh no. Oh
No.
wow, that's a
I
big
know. I feel like
yikes.
if
Strike
I'm gonna
one.
go to see live music, I'm an old lady inside my heart. I like to be
Hmm.
able to sit down and like have a drink and like be at a table and not just be crushed in a like crowd
Uh,
of sweaty people.
yeah, and it's a younger crowd too. It is.
And
I do.
everyone's usually drunk and it's a
I
lot.
mean, wasted. South by was cool for me because there's like celebrities floating around. I think that
There
was
are
pretty
some
neat.
fun parties. Like if I
Right.
get
And there's
invited
free shows and stuff.
to a good party that's got some live music and stuff, like I'll go to that. But at this point, like there are a few years that I lived here, you go to all the free stuff and you like wait in line for hours and you have
Yeah.
and like most of the time, even if you have a platinum badge now, like you're not even guaranteed to get into some of the bigger things. And I'm just not a
Hmm.
person who wants to stand around and wait in line to like maybe get into a party. I'm like,
Oh
I'd rather
no.
be at home.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I stood in line. Me and my friend Siobhan stood in line to go see Anderson Paak. And we were waiting in line for a couple of hours, and we got right into like at the door, and they said, okay, we're at capacity right at us. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
No, that's the worst. I know.
Yeah.
I would wait in line for Jane Goodall.
Well, yeah, Jane Goodall. I mean, you're just crushing it at life, with that one, with that
I'm
one.
crushing it at being an elderly woman ahead of my time.
You and I both, girl. I mean, let me tell you, an elderly woman, not man. I'm just like my old
Golden
age.
Girls.
There we go. Yeah,
Golden Girls.
they're classic. But so has it seems I was gonna come around to this, but like I think the pandemic has kind of it's obviously thrown comedians off, right? They can't do
Yeah.
shows, so a lot of them have podcasts.
Yes.
So they've been producing like a ton of content. I've been producing a ton of content. This Take Five, it did start during this time, right?
Yeah.
How much of this kind of the situation kind of drove you to start it?
I think that it's helpful because now people are like, well, yeah, I'm home anyway, and like probably used to doing interviews at home more now than like going somewhere.
Sure.
Um, I think part of it was because we had our big State of the Media report that came out, and then with that we had the State of the Media Live planned, where we were going to do an interview with a panel of journalists, and I was going to fly up to New York and do that out of our multi-view studio and like have
Oh
everyone
yeah.
there live. So we were all stoked about that. So then we just were like, pivot to the at-home model, and then I was like, you know what, let's just keep this going, because I
Mhm.
had revived Take Five for the blog, but I was like, let's
Right.
do a live version. Like if we get approved for LinkedIn Live, I think that's because you have to apply and like tell them what you're going to
Oh,
do and commit to
okay.
a broadcasting schedule. So I was like, seems like a really good fit for doing this. So
Okay.
where all of it kind of naturally came together like that.
That's really awesome. That's really awesome. And you just how do you pick your guests? How do you go about everything? Are you in charge of like booking people?
Actually, the events team has taken that over since
Okay.
they no longer have any live events to put on. They've been helping out with all of the virtual ones. So,
They're
uh,
looking to fill their schedules with work.
yeah,
Okay.
if I
Okay.
have ideas, or put that, but they do all the logistics part of it,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
awesome.
What's your favorite interview so far?
I really enjoyed talking to Joseph Cephas from Novitas Communications. We did a whole talk about diversity and inclusion and all the work that he's done. Like really, he's a fantastic expert in that space, and like what companies need to do to actually keep that going, because like in the past few weeks it's been a lot of corporate statements and like we're gonna change, and it's like, but are you really? Because you see that
Right.
sometimes, and then you
Yeah.
have to actually commit to
Hmm.
doing that. And here's like having him tell everyone like, here's the things that you actually need to do to start this work,
Right.
please go and do it.
Right. So it needs to be more actionable. So you
Mhm.
was it more of just a learning experience or being able to kind of get his voice out there
Yeah.
at a relevant time, right? Where a
Yes,
lot of stuff is happening in the world.
that's where I was like, we whatever kind of platform we have with Cision, I would really like to use that to elevate those voices right now if we can. So I was
Hmm.
really glad that we got to do that. And then we had a webinar that was similar too. So that was good. I know that there's always more that we can do. So hopefully we keep
Yeah.
that up.
Yeah. And how much of would you say that this has become kind of a personal project for you? I mean, obviously it's a bigger kind of deal, but how much of you comes into it on a personal level?
For Take Fives and that whole
Yeah,
project?
yeah.
Yeah, technically I've been at the same company for almost 8 years, but
Right.
since
That
it's like,
you haven't changed companies, the company has changed you.
yes, since I've been carrying that project around with me, I think, yeah, there is definitely a level of that because I like that it merges so many things from my background. Like there's the journalistic element of interviewing people and then
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
turning the live version of it into a blog post of takeaways is sort of like writing an article about an interview. And then, the broadcast element and brings all of those things that I enjoy doing and have done in my past together. So
Hmm. Hmm.
no matter where I end up in the future, if I'm able to do something similar, I would love that.
Okay. And I mean, that makes sense. I definitely see you expanding and doing, I mean, I don't know. Are you already doing something outside of this that's very similar or comparable
I
to it?
have a writing project I'm working on.
Okay.
Can't really talk about it yet.
Oh no.
No,
Okay.
it's academic. It's not that exciting.
I mean, you're talking to a nerd, right? I just asked you to read your thesis, so
That's true. That's true. Yeah,
right.
no, one of my old professors reached out, so I'm contributing to a chapter in a book that he's got
That's
some,
awesome.
yeah, I got
That's
some
really good.
other people working on. So that's exciting. And I'd really like to get back into doing a little bit more writing outside of work. I
Hmm.
stopped because it was just like the trade-off of the amount of work that it takes
Right,
and
right, right,
the
right.
amount of backlash basically you get on doing your taxes. I was like, it's not worth it.
Yeah, tell me about it. Is that how you're just kind of filling your kind of creativeness right these days? I mean, this kind of thing and that. I mean, is there anything big that you really want to do?
Yeah, the struggle there is finding the energy for it, honestly, because
Sure.
it's easy to forget, like, being in the middle of a pandemic is stressful in a lot of ways. Like, and
No.
so if you're just exhausted at the end of the day and you're like, why am I not creating? It's like
Right.
you shouldn't be so hard on yourself because we are dealing with all of these different stresses on top of like our daily stress from work and
Right.
life and everything
Right.
else. So
Right.
I think I'm now coming to a place where I have the energy for that. For recently, it's just been like my dog has an Instagram, so I just
Look at
use that
that.
as a creative outlet, building up her
Yeah.
following so she can support me.
Well, dog Instagrams is a whole thing, right? And you have a cat and a dog?
Yes,
Okay.
I had the cat before my parents were like, surprised we're getting puppies. So
Oh,
they got one for them and one for me. And so I
that's
had like
cute.
2 weeks to get ready for a Mastiff puppy.
A mastiff.
Yes.
Oh my
She
goodness.
she
That's
is
like that's a
person size. Um
Yeah, that's a huge dog. Oh my gosh. All right, so you can't see this, but like this is a big dog. I love mastiffs.
yeah, she's like
The
130 pounds.
the amount of drool that comes off of these dogs.
She's not that drooly because she's not as big like the big boys that have the big face. They
Oh
have more
yeah,
drool.
but like it's thick. That's the
It
thing.
is.
It's like thick. It's not like runny drool. It's
No.
like you're like, whoa, dude.
I always joke that if I can figure out how to monetize Mastiff slobber, like I'll be set for life.
Maybe yeah. I mean, people are always looking for solutions to like wrinkles, and
Right?
so I
Like,
mean,
people use snail serum, so that's honestly like on the same level.
that is a thing. I think Busy
Mhm.
Phillips does it.
Yeah, I think that's part of the like Korean skincare thing.
Is that
It's
a
like,
thing?
yeah,
Okay. Well, I
it's a
mean,
whole thing.
you know what? If I'll plug you, if and when you monetize it, you can become one of my quote unquote sponsors. Let's put it that way.
Excellent. I will work on that. And one of my friends has a beauty podcast, so like I'll have to
Oh,
start with her first. Natch Beauty,
yeah.
if you're into beauty, check it out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, we'll plug it. Let's plug anything else that you want, honestly. I mean, your book when it comes out, your memoir, I'm sure once you write that. Have you thought about getting back into theater?
I did for a while because one of my friends is at a theater here, so I go to her
Mm.
shows when I can, and I've done some like as sort of a guest at a storytelling night that I did. That was really fun, and my favorite show that I went to, they did Terminator as a musical. It was like the first two movies put together into an original musical, and it was like a perfect storm of all the things I love is like terrible action movies and like just ridiculous things. So it was
Yeah.
amazing. And I'm like, I need them to do it again. But obviously all the theaters are closed right now.
I
So
know, I know. This is such a bummer these days that like the
yeah,
world's such a different place. And
I
can,
know.
here's the thing, it's like even after this, like I can't, I'm sure there's going to be like this collective, speaking of, I'm sure there's tons of funny coming out of this right now,
Yeah.
out of like everything that's going on. There's so much material for the comedians and for people to kind
Hmm.
of, and plenty of trauma going around for people to kind of figure out ways to cope, right?
Yes, definitely.
So it's going to be a funny time after this, but I have this kind of under, this fear that we're going to, whether we're going to be a little traumatized and not want to go around large groups of people for a while.
I think some people will feel that way. Definitely. Like, I wonder if
Sure.
agoraphobia will be on the rise a
Like on
little
the
bit
rise. Yeah.
after this,
Yeah.
which, yeah, there's a good, I know of a book, if anyone is concerned
Oh, sure.
that they might have that issue. It's called Agorafabulous by Sarah Benacasa. And she struggled with that in the past and wrote a book about it. So I think that would be, if that's something you're worried that you're going
Hmm.
through or
Hmm.
will, then you might check that out.
So I'm going to ask you, why do you know about this book?
Because I follow her on Instagram.
Oh, okay. I was going to be like, let's get at this deeper issue here.
No, I am not agoraphobic. I'm just a huge homebody.
No. Okay. Okay. That's the difference. I'm definitely in my element these days.
Yeah.
Have you gotten on TikTok yet? Are you going to do a TikTok for your animal?
No, I have resisted TikTok because I am an extreme social media user already for like Twitter and Instagram.
Sure.
And so I was
Sure.
like, I don't really need to add another thing of screen time, but I do have a friend who sends me like all these cat TikTok videos. So I watch them, but I don't actually have the app.
Endless content. I mean, you can just be a
Yes.
lurker on there, and it's hours of content. And I did not expect to turn into one myself, but
Yeah.
the voiceovers, they're easy and they're fun and they're
Yeah.
hilarious, right? But I'm definitely the old guy, the old millennial on TikTok, which
I
is
know.
I don't care,
Yeah.
honestly. I've got kids. I can embarrass them. I'm used to embarrassing younger people already. So just by
There you
just
go.
merely existing, you know. You know what? I think we can wrap it up, but I just wanted to say you're such a gem.
Oh, thank
It's
you.
so much fun talking to you. Whatever you choose to do, I know you're going to do great things because you're just fun to hang out with.
I try to make everything I do fun because a lot of life cannot be fun,
There you
especially
go.
right now. So
There you
I
go.
think that is kind of the superpower of an only child also. Like I had to entertain myself all the time. So
Mm.
I try to find ways to make everything as fun as possible.
See, that's the good way to become an only, like the good result of being an only child. There's definitely a bad one, and you don't come across as the bad one.
Usually people are surprised when I tell them that I'm
What's your sign?
I'm a Libra.
Okay, I was gonna be like, as long as you're not a Scorpio, you're in the clear.
That's my mom. Watch out.
Whoops, sorry, mom. Ugh, just kidding. I'm just teasing. My best friend's a Scorpio. That's why I say it. Okay, thank you so much for coming on again. I'm just gonna hit pause here, and
Oh
then
yeah.
we'll quickly debrief. But guys, thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to
Yeah.
you guys soon. Bye.
Loved it.